Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another night of Tuesdays for the Poetry. I'm your poet, Gary Dale Burns, and you'll be hearing poetry from the age of 23 to 24 that were composed in the year 2009. We're getting to the end of the first decade of the 21st century. So, not too many poems tonight, a smaller batch like we had with 2008. So, I'll just start with the first one. I don't have a book recommendation. I've been really slow with my reading lately. Although I do recommend. I was literally gonna pull a book from back here. Actually, you know what? I just picked this up. A.R. Oraj's um, book on love. It's a collection of writings about love and forms of love, and it's a small, beautiful little collection. So there you go. I did it. I just pulled it out from behind me. So the first poem for the evening is a longer poem. It's called Pacific Typewriter. Pacific Typewriter. And I can tell you the backstory. Pacific Typewriter was the place that I took my typewriter for maintenance in Portland, Oregon. I don't know if it still exists. If you're in Portland and Pacific Typewriter is still around, please do let me know. That would be wonderful to find out. It's likely not, but it was a wonderful place, and I had an encounter with one of the workers here in the poem. I was with my sister, and but I had taken a vow of silence for a certain amount of time, sort of in my ascetic exploration phase here, and I just had a pad that I was like writing things down on to communicate. So that's the context of this poem. Pacific Typewriter. I had taken a vow of silence at 8 a.m., and now I'm ordering pigs in a blanket. I don't eat meat, but the red lawn johns, wool and polyester slacks, ruffian spotty beard inside this family restaurant brings out another person from me. An axe thrower, common laborer, American as our first generation, working off stolen land, engorged with many bloods and subsequently many hungers. My sister and I, at the backside of this very same building, brought an archaic machine to the gentleman in the blue smock. The elderly gentleman with cracked nails, inked cuticles, tiny tools, and his own lagoon blue eyes behind thick eighth of an inch lenses. He was smoking a cigarette on the first occasion I was his, with a borrowed sky blue Olivetti. Rolled up sleeves, his colleague and he puffing careless like it was still 47. This their plump and stoic secretary at the ready, a trio of living relics. The business was quick and well oiled, my check card imprinted, the receipt handwritten, all the while drifting ashes dropping slow. It was another time, another century then, buried under wrinkles, thickened but thin. I broke my silence as an offering after he swore, apologized twice. The professional awaited alone. My sister and I listened. I'm sorry, I was trying to reach a doctor. His stomach had a tube in it for cancer. Time pronounced that time was moot. God damn it, he had sworn, with sour truth. How strange in smell and colors, a graduation ring, a sunken eye, in fact, two which have become expert and graceful, long dancing to create a steady state in his peripheral visions of a scrambled alphabet. The letter N of a Smith Corona pulled from the machinery rows, placed as the essence of that moment, like a soup bone in our karmic stew. He typed, adjusted, typed a small line of a memorized speech begun, men in need, and the portable chalkboard of that monk in me could not in its Taiwanese wood frame hold even one character, candle-like, to explain to me mortality better than the magnificent technician's hand, veins blue, bumpy, wrinkles thickened but thin. And God rest that man. Next poem is called Passing Work. The white matter shakes its way downward, wind pushing west into the law of falling. Buttons of figs unpicked now cling tight as gusts rustle their frozen pink insides. And when the stuff is shook upwards again, a calm lies behind to illuminate like stars the fabric covering our sphere. Great green sponge of baleen, bits are tugged into clusters of trees. A dark bird carols aloud its path through a wheel of heat and sound. The city catches it all and breaks strands of webbing too weak to hold new layers on our old passing work. Our children console us so silently with cupping hands, their turning wrists. We fail to see what storms may bear upon their shoulders, this passing glimpse. Elusive light, creation seeds slip to a piece, becoming ground cover of fruit, cold and shining web, cold and shining wet. Their shapes melt and ley lines fade where footsteps drew anew. Earthworms wriggle upward to peak. My rain gutter flows with river brew. The city fell to weather's finest metaphor, a gift we share for no one owns the one above nor all below. Okay, last poem in the second volume of written out work. Not of this year, but just in this volume of work. And that's Poem for a Water Maiden. The shower head rains down, metallic cloud, and the pitter pat pours onto you. I listen to droplets, hundreds, roll off your arms and hands into the basin of water. How many bind your hair? Storm of wet on your soft features, making you pinker still. I know you'd make a river laugh if you were to stay underneath and swim the always tumbling. The handle turns and beads shake, once a bath, but now a lake. And your scales and strands, how long do you wonder, wind dry, your dreaming is awake, and in sleep, our fins where legs await. Okay, so this is the third volume of poems that I have. I'm filling out the fourth right now. It's almost complete. And this one my father gifted to me one Christmas. I said I needed another one, another notebook. It's binding that's not going to last. You know, maybe this will get rebound into something a little more tougher than this Mead 5-star. Not knocking the 5-star brand. That's some top shelf notebook there for school. So here we have, right, The Poetry of Gary Del Burns, Volume 3, April 2009 to November 2013. First poem is a haiku. A nucleus of bugs, a nebula of sky, measurement of man. The next is a birthday haiku for my 24th. The bum slaloms wide down city blocks to collect his pay of the sport. Submarine wilderness. Submarine wilderness. The rain fell through the dark, discovered by our headlights, like the silvery deposits from sea creatures of expansive depths. Night as a well bottoms wet, the roots a small stream bed that elk sauntered up to, all antlers and monstrous masses. Other shapes out of spooky Susla froze our eyes in the forest storm. We listened, swiveling heads, full of sensate fears, swimming. Submarine wilderness, did we not instead drive under the tides? Okay, this next one is called Before and After Copernicus. That's that great Polish inquisitor. So here we go. The light of the morning is the color of stone. The angle of the Arctic reaches, slowly bending upon shores of moss, conifer tree and tundra growing on the back of the globe. The light of your lover's hair, sleeping unkempt and tangled as she is in her blankets. It is so that the light is birds, for we hear morning quake too in a blue granite shade, as that gentle cloth of night pulls west the stitched stars. With this I cannot know if birds sing between olive opaque leaves to stir awakening, or share laments from a dark once full of dream. We create our own sounds and make morning light, a milk blood, a gurgle of shower heads, abrupt unconscious actions such as the swallowing of coffee. The sun, you see, arises, the leaves become candles, stone transmutes into gold with the same materials we touch by a light of fingers and the heat of massage. The next one's called Laws. This one took a while to write. It's a three-part sequence poem. Three-part sequence poem. So let's start. Let's start with one. I trust you all the more our eyes refrain from breaking, and gently we undo the chore man has made of all his speaking. Resuscitating colors and sounds, this dialogue breaks what has been bound. We write laws on paper napkins, 9 small decorative tomatoes, sit strung like plump, judged terpins, while your stereo sings a little French sparrow to sweep along the pale, pasty sky of supple red hours we steal by. Although no regret or shame to hold, expectation claimed one each, A teat of you, a teat of I was sold. The curtains drew to divide and teach we couldn't function our closest together. Two may circle, but will crash on a tether. 2. Two may orbit and feel their physics how falling and attraction pair. Anticipation tingling in those legs that dip into the boots with tips of flare. Drawn to the knees, your serpentine dressed in fervent admiration, I try not to confess. Inside a minor orchard, with this woman so appealing, desire in fact forgave my heart, every apple picked was freeing, and while their seeds outspread, we gleaned from our ground a bed. The saddle light of fleshy favors beams wide her borrowed blanket. We sweat through our magnetic fevers and go two ways by the trails of a comet. Her hands upon horse reins, my head in tall pines, our mirrors in us both, this darkness divine. 3. In darkness the moon is new again, spun round by our dance again. We know her face to return, and then leave a stranger and come back a friend. Wordless theater, no thing static, talking parts of what's inner and rhythmic. Who could I be for me alone? Centripetal bloom or centrifugal weed, to remain upon an altar stone or burned for the colored smoke you need. Every law that I break as a man has pulled me into a steadier hand. 1 is night, but 2 is day. We love the very things we bind, at times to go, at times to stay, to burn the wood inside the mind. But there is no law more untrue as that fire ablaze in a heart amazed. I wrote unamazed. Didn't seem to work when I read that out loud. Okay. So that one was fairly formal. You can, hear is fairly formal. And so at this point with my poetry, I'm sort of, free verse is there, it's present, but then occasionally, I'm leaning back into the form. And I think even now, well, you'll hear that. Stick with us to August. Wander nomad, wander nomad, wander. We've lost our faces in the painted eyes of partners, and with stones kicked by passing shoes into dark, deep brambles. There are no wrinkles here, so the smiles have no meaning. Our heads bow in a solitude of hiding. Brushing through strangers, the body's center of gravity pulls away from all luminous entities toward red, shifted whirlpools. The dining hall glitters. She places her hair behind her ear. It's as if a fishbowl is over your head. A new Willamette in the river's calm demure through the region pulls and rain to wash out wind scars, push out sand. In my dream of our wedding, you held the rings of exchange, transparent feather bands, crafted, special. The priest spoke into a seashell hung around his neck to catch every echo of whatever promise the chapel kept. Among glacial flows, the finest snows melt, clear, move again, that fell, when, who knows, to join the new rains in river's presence. Our meal eaten slowly, silently, the hills begin to move outside like stirring animals. I have become a desert Bedouin, once and over and again, to trace the sinking lines, not in your face, but for the energy of needled pines. A lot of pines in these poems, a lot of pines. Oh, this is a good one. I was living with my girlfriend at the time, and we had a neighbor named Jean, and she was taken away by an ambulance at some point. She was always very kind. She was a Buddhist, observed the Tibetan um, form of Buddhism, I believe Mahayana, and so this is for her. This is about her, our neighbor Jean, Tibetan Buddhist and a native of the Midwest, leaving us the pickup sticks we'd make into a vase's bouquet. Elder woman alone, except for the body of your cat, where its head resides, a soul to pass and form anew. The hummingbird's sweet feed above your door as the stroke shuffles away your presence into the Episcopalian ambulance. What home have we taken you to? What residence without the three jewels? Some short poems here. I don't, yeah, I don't have it labeled as haiku. Maybe they are, maybe not. But they're short. So first one is the tallow of the electric bulbs running out my ankle bones. Our Burman cat applauding the morning bird's classic symphony. This one's a little philosophical. Antinomians would delight in natural laws, as atheists would admit in what appearance they find wrong. Okay. Reconnaissance. You made the unclean special in its secrecy, emerging from the holy temple, white garments and the smell of each other's genitals on breath, peacekeepers' accord signed with cum, until broken by spite's sting, your eyes relaxed, drugged blind on splendor, smiles crept in the trash of your living room, kids on the floor, seemed like parade confetti and spoils after some great war. But your battles are eternal, his pupils burning holes, her betrayal of the Union, a telephone calls home for munitions for his weakness in the armory of two Mormons. As your child, your solemn legion, my objective has ever been to prove your pure religion, to crusade through its darkness, sketch the limits by reconnaissance. This next one is called Recipes. Cooking is a transfusion of the unending action, hearth a name of universe, bow and arrow loose than tight, not as fire, no, that slow and warm, the matters of mind move by hand. Here's a broth of your wisdom teeth, a tar for the reunion, your swollen mouth sore bruises on the proudest pale. There's a cure to disappointment, speaking whispers stale, as this fly abhors the eyelid. If an immovable object were real, it would be like this idea of human nature as a seed which corrupts its own fruit, never to ripen or decay, a perfect sin, a staple God. Rose water through your fingers, belly dancing out the edges of your vision, the wise fly sees fireworks, and so prays to be unseethed. Grandmother's forgotten love in snowbanks and cakes. Your children had babies. Their babies grew up and found that no parents, no weapons or truth, home cooking or book gave them real comfort when they peered into the nook. Oh, we got something special here. Poem 400. We made it. 400. 004, 400. Sloth Man. We slowly made it to Sloth Man and the 400th poem. So here goes. Um, Awaken all, awaken thusly to fetid surroundings, the hands crushed, the feet stamped, while your sleep tremors divided the body into food for the fly, whose own dream is kaleidoscopic, the sight of multitudes of stink. Greenery not only appears, fuzzy and felt as a stolen pelt, but groans as it moves over soil, crossing out of a layer that is stacked like skin, so the sky can breathe his earth and she may capture him again. Before all this groping in darkness, tapping their fingers upon keyboards satisfied the itch of every digit, a relief that your clean scalp, gleaming beneath the waters black, known by cavern fish blind and clear throughout, who pick the dust off your flesh until a prize of bones you become. If the waters rise, they must recede, sleeper on floors. Unbeknownst to the mice, our country flat and folded lotus borders a new nation of timber, and so they won't whisper about the fire, but their whiskers will brush by your arms at their sides, asleep. Just two more for 2009. We got a short one here. The music through the walls while we talk amongst ourselves. All waves, one song. And our last poem is called Falling Away from You. Your fiery hands shake at me with 1,000 palms. The glimmering yellows dust off their red masks. I am falling away from you in a broad refusal of everything you glow, as in a heart. We denied this light with every deeper and darker turning, twisting. Now shelves of books are the bricks of our religion, horizontal stack of smack and tumbling sedatives. The scribblings of memory and dreams from a world filled with your light, we peered into the concentrations of your ever-present laughters. The buffaloes form an echo of word. Autumn cries at the gate of Beulah, and this darkness is a bitter sleep. O moon, be conception's movement of the soft music in my hollow mind. For on that day of sun, we are born rising. Okay, that's it for tonight's Tuesdays for the Poetry. That was the 11th night of Tuesdays for the Poetry, featuring poems from the year 2009. Thanks for those of you who have tuned in tonight for tuning in. And this video will be available if you would like to watch it later. Recommend it to your friends. There's an ongoing retrospective of the poetry of this guy, Gary Dale Burns. And if you haven't heard of him, that's not a mistake. If he's just a friend of yours, thank you, friends. And if you're discovering me, I hope you're finding something in the things that I've written. So, next week, we will have poems from the year 2010 when I was 24 going on 25, and it'll be a good time. I think I've talked a lot about music and playing some songs on here, and I think I'll do that um, when we read some poems from 2011 because that's when um, I had a really good batch of songs that I actually wrote down the chords to. Been trying to remember the older songs, but I can't. So join us next week for the 12th night of Tuesdays for the poetry. Take care and have a good evening. And I hope you find poetry in your own life, in your day to day. It's out there, it's always out there. Take care.